Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really interesting section of the Bhagavad Gita.
That's right. Chapter 2, specifically verses 26 through 38. They're framed as practical reflections for modern life.
Exactly. And our aim here is to see what practical wisdom we can pull out for handling things like loss, grief, and, well, just our everyday responsibilities.
Even when maybe our core beliefs about life and death differ from the text's assumptions.
Right. So maybe you've grappled with loss or felt completely swamped by duties. This dive might offer some different angles.
Definitely. And it kicks off, interestingly, by addressing the viewpoint that death is final. Verses 2.26 and 2.27.
Yeah, Krishna's point seems to be, okay, even if you think that's it, end of the line. Grieving excessively is still, well, kind of unnecessary, because death is certain for anyone born, and birth is certain for anyone who dies, in that view, or at least death itself is a certainty.
It's like it comes with the territory of being alive. You can't have one without the other. Eventually, it's baked in.
Yeah, baked in. I like that. Our source notes mention a story about Samir grieving his grandmother. And his friend Ria didn't offer complex philosophy, just sort of acknowledged that, yeah, loss is universal. We all go through this.
And sometimes just knowing it's a shared path, that you're not utterly alone in that feeling, can be, well, maybe not comforting, but grounding, less isolating.
Makes sense. And that flows into the next couple of verses, 2.28 and 2.29. They broaden the view, right?
They do. They talk about how beings are like unmanifest before birth, manifest in between, and then unmanifest again after death.
So it's all about cycles, change, coming and going.
Exactly. The core rhythm of existence is change, impermanence. Think of a wave. It appears, it has its form,
It dissolves back into the ocean. Yeah. The notes had that story of Ethan and his app.
Right, his app faded, and he struggled with that. But his therapist helped him see that things don't need to last forever to have had meaning or value.
It's a tough one, accepting impermanence, but maybe more realistic.
It certainly pushes towards realism and maybe a bit more peace with the way things are.
Okay, so then verses 2.3 and 31 shift slightly. They bring back the idea of the eternal self, the part that doesn't die.
Correct. Reaffirming that core idea. The essence is indestructible, so grief for that isn't logical in this framework.
And this seems crucial, that understanding isn't a pass to just, disengage.
Not at all. It's a pivot. It
Yeah.
says, okay, and you still have your role to play, your responsibilities, your dharma.
Like Janelle, the physician in the notes, facing death constantly, but realizing her duty is still about alleviating suffering, being present.
Precisely. Know your deeper nature and show up for what's in front of you. It's both.
And then the text moves into this idea of fighting a righteous battle, verses 2.32, 2.33.
Yeah, which can sound martial, but it's often interpreted as acting according to your principles, your duty, standing for what's right. It's framed as a fortunate opportunity.
Like Marcus the whistleblower, facing that choice between comfort and integrity.
Exactly. And the verses warn that avoiding that kind of necessary principled action, well, it leads to losing honor and accumulating negative consequences, or sin in some translations, regret, basically.
And the next verses, 2.34 and 35, they really double down on that, don't they? The cost of walking away.
They do. Dishonor, for someone who values it, is seen as worse than death. And people might perceive your inaction as cowardice, fear. It impacts your standing.
Tanya, the team lead, considering stepping back from that tough project, her mentor advised her to think about the long-term story she'd be telling herself and others.
Yeah, it's about self-respect and
Yeah.
how your actions are perceived, which, matters in the social world.
So it's about integrity, duty, honor. But then verses 2.36 and 37 seem to add another layer, shifting focus from winning or losing.
Right. It says essentially, prepare to act according to your duty, but don't get hung up on the outcome.
Win or lose, succeed or fail. The important thing is how you act.
Acting from clarity, from principle, not from fear or desire for a specific result. That's presented as its own kind of victory. Like Alex, who answered honestly in the interview.
Lost the job, but kept his integrity, and something better came along later.
Yeah, it suggests a kind of freedom in just doing what's right, letting the results fall where they may.
And the final verse we're looking at, 2.38, kind of brings it all together.
It does. It advises acting while being balanced towards pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat. This is a core principle of karma yoga.
So engage in the action, fulfill the duty, but internally remain steady, not driven by emotional highs and lows.
The real battle, in a sense, is internal, against attachment, fear, anger. like Leah the teacher in the notes responding calmly and factually to unfair attacks.
Okay, so pulling it all together, it seems this section offers a path through difficulty by first accepting the universal nature of loss and change,
Recognizing impermanence.
then understanding our deeper nature, but also really committing to our responsibilities with integrity.
Right, showing up. And doing so for the right reasons, not just personal gain or fear of loss.
Yeah, acting with that inner balance, that steadiness, regardless of the immediate outcome.
Yeah, that's a good summary. That's quite a dense package of advice.
It really is. So maybe a final thought for you listening think about an area in your life right now, maybe a challenge or a responsibility.
How might applying some of this perspective shift things? Acknowledging the impermanence, focusing on your part, acting with integrity, trying for that inner steadiness.
Oh, what would that look like, acting from that place of balance rather than being totally attached to a specific result, something to ponder?